Welcome. So, just for your benefit, everybody else is probably getting tired of hearing this, but my name's Stacy Quaid, and I've been practicing herbalism since 2002, hand in hand with energy-based therapy. I am a healing touch practitioner and instructor, and I retired a little over a year ago from 30 plus years at the hospital in occupational therapy. So I worked on the brain injury team there. So I just have my private practice where I teach and see clients one-on-one and kind of blend all that together into whatever I can help people with the best for them. So, so we've been doing kind of a series, and I don't know if you've been able to see any of the ones on the YouTube channel to kind of catch up at all. So because it's Valentine's Day, I figured it might be appropriate to talk about cardiovascular herbs and also flower essences. And so we're going to start talking about a couple of cardiovascular herbs first, herbs for the heart and the circulatory system. And then we'll kind of segue into the flower essences. We'll talk a little bit about how they're blend into the herbal world, how we make them. And then we're going to practice a energetic technique for you to find your resonance with your own personal yes-no truth, and using something called kinesiology. And then you're going to get to come up and test the flower essences out and build your own formula. So that's my hope for today. I have some books up here that have good pictures of the herbs we're going to talk about. And I'm not going to pass them around when we're talking, but as we're taking turns up here later in the show, you can go ahead and take a look at the books. And so two of them are from my friend Lisa Rose. She's from Michigan. She's a great herbalist there. She's been traveling the globe with her book. And there's a lot of really crossover local plants that are in our area in here. And then Matthew Wood's Materia Medica. This has no pictures, but good written descriptions. So if you want to take a peruse through these as we're kind of playing with the herbs later, they're up here for you. So, so we're going to start with basswood, Tilia. Tilia is a really common boulevard tree in our town, and they used to plant basswood trees out into the middle of fields, so that because they grow really large and pretty quickly, and so then it would be an area for shade. And in colonial times, there used to be basswood trees planted in like the city parks, where they would have like the meetings, the political meetings and things like that. And one of the reasons that they did that is because basswood is calming. And it's a gentle, calmer downer. It doesn't necessarily sedate you so that you feel sleepy, but it's just by being in the presence of the trees and the aroma of the flowers that it put off and the energy from the leaves, that it would help keep the climates calm. And that's how we use it, as a tea or as a tincture for ourselves. It helps to calm down anxiousness. So it works really well for people that just kind of have that higher set point, that are always kind of nervous, that need help kind of just chilling a little bit. It's good for helping people to calm down and focus. So it's helpful for people with ADD. As a heart tonic, it helps to relax. So when someone is having stress, heart palpitations, just that anxiousness that sometimes can raise the blood pressure, it can help with decreasing that. Lowering blood pressure, it's diffusive, and so it's a real nice, useful herb for people that need to calm their heart down in that way. It's also I'm going to just read a little bit from here because it's nice and nicely written. It's a fever remedy, and it's cooling, and it's astringent, so it's for excess heat. And so sometimes when people are in that agitated state, they have a lot of heat in their system. So this is a nice one to put on board. It's drinking as a warm tea, but it's also drinking as a cold drink in the summer. It's really nice and gentle. It's sweet and it's moist. So it's for any kind of anxiety of the heart in that way. It's also for digestion. It's for that hot, irritated digestion. So it can soothe and sweeten and cool down a hot tummy that has, maybe some acid reflux or things going on. It's a bit tonifying. So if the digestion is creating some reflux, it can help that valve, that sphincter that separates our esophagus from the top of our stomach, tone it up so that it seals better, so that we're not getting things gurgling back up. So it's diffusive, so it helps to kind of move fluids in our body, which is another reason that sometimes people have trouble with their heart, because maybe their kidneys and the water in their system is a little bit too much in their bloodstream, and so it helps to kind of move that fluid and clear things. So, and that's Tilia. And here's one picture I can show you right off the cuff of what the basswood tree looks like.
Would you just dry the leaves then and then make a tea out of it?
So you collect the leaves and the flowers, and you do that in the early summer or late spring, depending on where you live. You can smell them a mile away.
Oh, really?
They're a really sweet smell. The flowers, when you come up and look at the pictures a little more closely, you'll see there are these little bunches of like creamy green colored, almost papery looking flowers and little seed stems that come off the end in little bunches. So you just take those bunches and then the little bits of leaves that are around there, and you can dry those out and make them as tea. And actually, this is it's the tea that they use in France. It's called Tilou, they call it. And so like if you went to somebody's house and they said, do you want coffee or tea? This would be one of the teas that you would get, just like everybody's got it in their kitchen.
Like Earl Grey or
yeah. So you can get those flower bunches when they're fresh. In the early spring, when the leaves are when you come up and look at this, you'll see the leaves are really, really shiny in the early spring, and those you gather and you make salad out of. They're one of the best early spring forage greens to make a nice, it's like they're just like leaf lettuce, but sweeter. Super tasty, and can add a lot of bulk to the greens you're gathering for a salad, so that can fill the bowl up pretty fast. So that'll be a fun one for us to check out this spring. So then we're going to move into motherwort. Motherwort is another very specific cardiac herb. Its Latin name is Leonardus cardiaca, so it's right in the name. And it's been used well over time for helping people with heart palpitations, high blood pressure, normalizing blood flow. It's really used a lot with people going through perimenopause and menopause, which is when a lot of those things can start to happen as our hormones are changing. So it's helping to balance hormones in some levels in different ways. And it diffuses heat. It's a very bitter nervine, and it is not one that you really want to drink a cup of tea out of. I brought motherwort in tincture form. This is not the most bitter one I've ever made. I think it's a little bit mild, but if you want to try the tincture to see if you can catch some of the sensation of what what motherwort feels like in your body. You're not going to get a big, blood pressure shift or anything like that just from this a couple of drops, but you'll get a sense of the properties of it, okay? So the way that we do this in class is, remember, you just kind of make a little divot on the side of your hand and go like that and get it, or you can just put some in your palm and taste it that way. So if you want to go for that, and this is...
You didn't squinch up your face a lot.
I'm a herbalist, like bitter things, so hopefully you all will get to be good bitter eaters. So that one you might not want to try. So motherwort also is really helpful when someone's heart is, like, motherwort is like the hug of your mother when you need her in the night. So it's when you need that kind of support for your heart is when we use motherwort. And it's interesting that a lot of the times when women are having those night sweats with heart palpitations, that's when we need motherwort, in the nighttime. So it's useful for that time of day. It helps with sleep in that way, and it helps again with that restlessness. When we're looking at it in terms of helping it modulate the blood pressure, it helps with the rhythm. Because a lot of times when people are in that state, they're real irregular. Their heartbeats are fast and a little slow, and a little fast and a little slow, and they're kind of all over the place. This helps to even that out and smooth that out and open the flow. And if you look at the way the plant grows in the picture, one of the signatures for that is it's got these very symmetrical opposing leaves, and then the flower bundles are like in between the brackets of the leaves, and that's kind of a signature for helping to regulate and rhythm and like decreasing spasm and things like that. And motherwort is actually in the mint family. So it's got that squared stem and those opposing leaves. That's a way to remember some of that too. So, anybody getting a real big hit off of that?
I thought it had a sweet beginning to it.
And then what happened? Did it turn on you at all, or?
I don't think it turned. It just wasn't quite as sweet, but I don't think it's bitter at all.
Yeah. Well, good. See. So it's got a lot of layers of uses. So, and then we're going to go into pretty much the quintessential heart herb of the day is hawthorn. Hawthorn is for the heart. Hawthorn is for every aspect of the heart and the cardiovascular system, physical, emotional, and spiritual. And the herbal effects of hawthorn berry and leaf really hit those emotional and spiritual layers as much as a flower essence or a homeopathic would. So you can use the actual full-on herb to affect some of those conditions for people. So Jim McDonald has a really neat little YouTube herb walk segment where he's talking about hawthorn berry, and he's really fun to listen to. So if you just Google Jim McDonald herbalist and hawthorn, it just pulls you right. It's like maybe 15 minutes. It's not very long, but there's some good tidbits. He kind of really summarizes it well. So we have hawthorn that grows around in our woods and in the neighborhoods, and you can see them sometimes planted along. There's a whole row of them right on the corner of 6th Avenue when it comes up by the Copper Top Church. Do you know where that is, the Methodist Church? right along that curve, those are all hawthorn trees. And they're loaded every year, and they're too close to the road.
Yeah.
And right by the parking lot. So they're really pretty to look at, and hopefully they're giving us some good calming energy in the line of traffic at the top of that hill. I think that's why they're there. So one of the problems with hawthorn in the recent, probably last maybe 10 years, is that there's a blight kind of going across the country that's affecting a lot of the hawthorn trees. There's a whole bunch of different subspecies, and some of them seeming to be more resilient to this blight, but you can't be sure. There was some up growing around the Chester Bowl area, and maybe about 5-6 years ago, they started getting the spots on them. So what it looks like is, you know how an apple sometimes get a little round, brown, like sort of flaky patch on it? That's what happens to hawthorn berries. They just get these little brown spots on them, and the leaves get all kind of weird and brown and spotted, and you know, it's kind of a bummer. If you can go to the tree early enough in the spring and get the flowers and the leaves, sometimes you can get lucky. That being said, there's some around, like more towards the western ends of town and up that way, that seem to be still good. So you can find them. And it's hard to tell a hawthorn tree, the specific subspecies, by the leaf, because the leaves can look very different. Some of them are lobed, some of them are more like we call palmate, which has a bunch of leaves. Some of them look a little bit like a maple leaf, and they can all be just a little bit different. So going by the leaf sometimes is harder, and it really doesn't matter what subspecies it is, because they're all interchangeable, but you can always tell by the thorns. Hawthorn, the thorns are like this big. I mean, you can make a sewing needle out of them. They are not always on the branches, out on the ends of the branches, but they are on the trunk. So, and they're sharp. They won't like really grab you unsuspectingly, but you gotta watch for them when you're in there. So you wanna pick the berries in the fall. That's when they're ripe, you know, late summer, fall. Gotta watch the season. And the flowers and the leaves in the springtime. The flowers and the leaves are more diffusive, and the berries have a little bit more of the antioxidants and the bioflavonoids and that sort of thing in them, because they're the fruit. Lots of people mix them together, and you can even use the little teeny, like the tips of the branches, if you're collecting little clumps of the flowers and the leaves too, just like with the basswood. So I like to keep mine separate, because sometimes I don't think that some people need that much diffusive push, and so then I like to just be able to have the berries separate and then mix them together if need be, or if it seems right. Hawthorn is what we call a cardiotonic. It's a really gentle herb that works on the cardiovascular system over a period of time. It's not something where you're gonna take it and 2 days later you're gonna feel a huge shift. Tonic herbs don't generally work like that. You might feel a subtle shift, and you might feel more of the relaxing properties of hawthorn more sooner than you're going to maybe notice the trophal restorative qualities. Trophal restorative is a word we use that means that it actually restores the tissue. And that happens, it's like nutrition. So it takes some time for the tissues to get that worked in and for them to get built back up. And that word also means that after you've taken a trophal restorative, whether it be for your cardiovascular system or something for your muscles like Solomon's seal or your tendons and ligaments, that after a certain period of time of taking them, that even if you stop, that you can still have gotten the benefit from that. Like, you might not need to take it anymore because it's built your tissue back up to like a better baseline. Whether you have to take it again in the future, that's another thing. But it's you know, it's kind of nice. You can get your tissue state back. So that, in terms of the cardiovascular system in hawthorn, is that it helps to strengthen the peripheral blood vessels. So like right down to the capillaries, and it helps to make them more flexible and to help them to be more relaxed. And so that helps the whole system to let the blood flow more easily, and that is what helps hawthorn be a really nice blood pressure modulator. So it works for high blood pressure, it can work for low blood pressure. It does lower blood pressure, but sometimes people with low blood pressure need a different kind of balancing, and so it can be effective for that too. You just kind of have to watch it. It is an antioxidant, has a lot of bioflavonoids, so it does thin blood. So you need to kind of keep that on the back shelf if you're working with someone, or you yourself are already on blood thinners, or you know, bleed easy and things like that. And like if you were going to have a procedure, it would be one that you would have to stop having for a few days before you went in, you know, for anything that's going to cut you.
So it does reduce blood pressure.
It does, and so the reason that that works is because of the effect it has on the distal and the overall arteries and veins, you know. So because most people think of the heart that it's like a pump, like it's actually forcing the blood through the blood vessels, and that is its job. And if it's, you know, it's really, our cardiovascular system works more on like inertia. You know, like, have you ever swung a bucket of water around? You know, you get a big oomph and then it just kind of keeps going. That's how our cardiovascular system works. Our heart is not like forcing the blood out every time it pumps. It's just keeping it moving. Like Jim McDonald says, like a merry-go-round. Just keeps it moving. And when the distal blood vessels are too tight, or they're too stiff, or whatever, that gives that back pressure that slows that merry-go-round down, and that's what creates the difference in the blood pressure. So this works on nourishing those tissues, and then all that works better. So.
But that's over time. That's not.
In it, you know, how long it's going to take for somebody? How high is the blood pressure? How long has it been that way? What else is going on? You know, do they have other factors that also need to be balanced out? You know, where are we starting from on that bell curve of health? Yeah. So, good questions. Two other things to think about as how it's affecting the physical heart is that it helps to equalize the rhythm like the motherwort does. So if there's some erraticacy in the heartbeat, the heart rate, it helps to balance out that rhythm, and it also strengthens the heart itself because it's that tropho-restorative feature. So it's not making the heart beat more intensely, it's strengthening the muscle itself so it's more efficient. So that's how it also helps that. And this is kind of our segue into the flower essences because, again, hawthorn is really protective to the emotional heart. And the signature that shows us that it can be that helper after a heartbreak when you're feeling like really vulnerable and like guarded and prickly, like the thorns are creating that sort of boundary of space. I mean, they're not real aggressive thorns, but they give enough of a warning, enough of a protection to give some space, even though they're still able to offer their abundance, their fruit, to the world. So it helps people to be able to get back out in the world a little bit from a perspective of being able to engage and but feel protected. And so that's the energetics of how it can help us with that protection. So in that way, you can do a couple things. You can do low drop doses of the tincture, or you can actually put it on your heart and rub it on your heart and have it just work that way as sort of that ally, that little thing you do for yourself, for your heart, before you go out in the world and help you set your energy for the day. So another thing you can do, Jim mentions this in his video, I do this often with certain herbs, is just put the berries or the leaves and the flowers or all of it in a little, like a medicine pouch, and use the energetics that way. Just carry it with you, just like sitting under the basswood trees to calm the crowd would do. So, and that can be very, very helpful, and that's a way that we use herbs a lot, is to just have them be there energetically with us. So yarrow is a great one for that. So while we're talking about flower essences and what that's all about, and the segue, I have for you here the hawthorn and linden flower tea blend together. It's very mild, and we'll just give you a little taste to see if you can get a sense. Matthew Wood, when he's talking about who has a good signature for hawthorn, because it is such a heat remedy for excited tissue states, heat in the system, one of the places that we check for a hawthorn match is the palm of the hand and the backs of the hands and wrists. And what you do is, let's see, I don't know if we're going to have enough here. Let's just start passing it out. The meaty part of your palm, if you look at a person and it's really, you know how some people have really red hands? They're just really, really red right there. And what you do is you push down hard and you check to see if it goes really white and how long that lasts. Because the longer it stays, the whiter it gets and the longer it stays white, if it's starting out from really, really red, is a signature for hawthorn. So you want to pass these back?
When you say signature for hawthorn, it's a good idea.
It's a good idea for that person that would help them with the heat in their system, with maybe their agitated tissue state or their agitated emotional state. This is just tea. It's no? All right. Everybody get one? You good? It's just really, I didn't put any sweetener. A lot of people like to make hawthorn or linden and or a blend and put a little bit of stevia or a little bit of honey.
You didn't say much about the linden. It's just something you put with hawthorn.
No, linden all on its own it's calming. It's for nervous conditions. It's for agitation, and it's relaxing. It's diffusive and astringent, and it can help to calm the system, lower the blood pressure, and help the digestion.
Similar to hawthorn.
Yeah, lots of overlapping properties in all three of these. The motherwort is probably the strongest medicine of all of them, where you would have to maybe know a little bit more about her, learn a little bit more about how to use her in a productive way without doing too much. So.
What are your ratios for this, another 1-to-1 or?
Pretty much, yeah. Oh, and you know, hawthorn berries, when you get them in commerce, if you're not picking them fresh in the fall, they're really hard. They're just like little hard marbles. And I took the hawthorn that I was going to make the tea out of, and I soaked them like for a whole day. So let's just put them in the water that I was going to use to make the tea and let them just sit on the counter so that they could soften up and you could get more of their properties out. So when you start out with like fresh hawthorn berries, it's just bright red, you know, and a hawthorn tincture too. It just gets a really nice, bright, you know, vibrant red color. So, yeah. So, but yeah. Do you like it?
Not bad.
I like it. I think it's nice and mild, a little bit green. I don't know. Can you tell? What are you feeling in your mouth? Are you getting any of the different properties? I'm not going to say what they are.
Sweet.
Kind of sweet. What else?
Cool. A little bit cool.
Cool? Like feels cool?
I'm not noticing too much of a difference, but it's good.
Nice and mild, yeah.
The lip and the emulsify.
Uh-huh. Yeah, you can feel that. A little bit slippery. Yeah, good. Yeah. All right. So are people here, anybody familiar with flower essences? So flower essences are one way that you can really pair herbs nicely when someone has an emotional or spiritual layer to what's going on with them, that's showing up maybe physically, that the herbs or the other conventional treatments that they might be trying are just not quite doing the trick. Like the person that is like, well, I've been to the doctor and they say there's just really no active, you know, reason that they can find that this such and so is showing up. So maybe it's on a more of an energetic layer of the person, and flower essences are great for that. And you can couple them with something for the actual physical tissue to help with that balancing. But this adds that layer of helping to change patterns in a way that is more vibrational. Flower essences work with vibration. So the way that we make them is pretty special, and it's very specific. Sometimes hard to do in our latitude because you need the sun to make them. So you take a clear glass bowl, and I have a special bowl that I use that I got from one of my teachers that is like a crystal cut, like finished crystal. So it's got all these extra angles. So it's I think it makes a pretty good essence. But so you want a clear glass bowl that doesn't have any like pattern or anything on it, because that's like what Pyrex or something like that sometimes has little designs. And then you put about a half a cup to 3/4 of a cup of I use distilled water. You can use spring water. It has to be pure, good water. The reason that I use distilled water is because we call distilled water hungry water, because it's basically empty, and plus it's, you know, sterilized for the most part. So it can really, it has a lot of space to take up the essence of the flower because it's empty to begin with. So you put that, so you go out in the early morning and you pick the perfect flowers, or if it's a big flower you might just pick one flower and then use the petals, and you put them on top of the water. You just cover the whole surface of the water with the flower petals, and then you put it in the sun. So it has to have at least 4 hours of direct sun to get the essence of the flower to wilt into the water, and that's how you capture that. Some people will even go so far as to not take the flowers off the plant and just put the bowl, if you've got the right spot, and then just bend the plant right over into it and kind of secure it on there and let it just do its thing while it's still like living in the ground. And just I don't have the ability to do that in my personal yard. I've tried a couple times, but I don't ever get enough of the sun to be able to make that happen. So after that amount of time and you look, the water doesn't really change very much color most of the time. There are a few plants that will change the color of the water, but not so much. But they'll look sort of wilted into the water, and then you know it's done. So you take that water and you strain out the flowers and you give them back, and making sure you're saying thank you. And then, okay, so a good way to do that is to pour it through a coffee filter, so there's no little micro bits of pieces of stem or anything in there. And then, so we're going to take this and you're going to put it into a very clean and a dark colored jar. So you want the jars to be dark. And then you, let's see, what is the ratio? You measure the water, and then you add equal amounts of, my friend Elena, who wrote up this wonderful handout some years ago for our herb group, she uses white brandy. I like to use vodka because it has a cleaner taste, but a lot of herbalists will use white brandy or brandy to make their tinctures and things.
Could you repeat that ingredient? I couldn't hear because of
Equal parts of alcohol. Okay, so brandy or vodka is usually the alcohols of choice. This is called the mother. Okay, so say you started out with a half a cup of water, and now you've got a whole cup of the mother essence, right? And always when you use a flower essence, you want to shake it up. That's why I shook all those up in me when I got here. It wakes them up. So when you make, so this is step one. And this is kind of how homeopathics works as well. It's titrated down like a whole bunch of times. So from that mother tincture, we take 4 drops and put it into a 1 ounce dropper bottle. And then that gets filled with alcohol. Okay? That gets shook up. That's called the stock bottle. Okay? From the stock bottle, which is what I have here, you take 2 to 4 drops of that mixture, and then you put the rest with the distilled water or spring water. And that's your dose bottle. So from that very potent beginning, we've titrated it down like many times. When they do this in homeopathy, it's like when you see that, say you get a homeopathic remedy, it says 20x. So what they do is, like, if this was the beginning thing that they were going to titrate down, they take one of these of the remedy, 10 cups of water. That's times 1. One of these, 10 more cups of water, that's 2x. So then you take from that one of these and 10 more. So by the time you get down to, some of these remedies are 200x. There's not a whole lot of that first material in there because homeopathics are energetic. There's these micro amounts in the lower X's or the lower CCs they use now, but very little. The flower essences fall into that category. There's these micro amounts of the actual flower that was in the water at first, but it's titrated way, way, way down, okay? And so this is a vibrational remedy. When you're doing your flower essences, you don't want to, like, they get stored in a whole different cupboard in my place, away from the herbs, dried or the tinctures, because they pick up vibration. So they're really sensitive, which is why they help with sensitive things.
Do you also have to avoid like caffeine, chocolate, mint, things like that you would in homeopathics?
Like when you take it,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, for a short period of time.
Okay.
Not like you don't have to stop drinking coffee to take the homeopathic. But yeah. That's kind of the same too. I would recommend you do that for your tinctures too. Just give them time to get into your bloodstream. So because flower essences work with energy, and we are energetic beings, we can use our built-in yes/no truth meter to connect in to the earth and source and the herbs, and actually can douse out or pick out our own perfect remedy. So we're going to practice finding our yes/nos. Okay. Has anybody done kinesiology before? Some? Okay. They use it in conventional Western medicine. They use it in chiropractic. There's a whole branch of chiropractic field called applied kinesiology. We use it with plants, and this is one of the very most basic ways that you can start learning to talk to the plants, because they don't talk, to our ears, but they do send us messages and clues and vibrational signs when we're out in the woods, when we're out in the yard. If there's some tree that keeps getting your attention, it's trying to say something to you. So then you can go and interact. So how you find your own personal meter is, the easiest way is to stand up.
We're standing? We're standing? Okay.
You might want to give yourself a little room. So when we have a truth that is a deep truth to ourselves, it's 100% yes, it's no lie, our body moves in a certain direction. And when we have something that's not our truth, our body is going to move in a different direction. And so the easiest way to do this, so just take a minute and just breathe. And breathe down into your body for a sec. And just kind of feel this thing. Okay. All right, so now stay out of your heads. Okay, just try and feel your body. I'm going to say a bunch of things. You pretend like you're saying them to yourself. You don't have to say them out loud or anything, but just pretend you're saying them, and then feel which way your body wants to move, okay? So just, it's easier than it feels. So, my name is Sarah. I have bare feet. I have glasses on. I like chocolate. This room is painted pink. My shirt has a zipper on it. I have long blonde hair. My shoes have straps. My favorite food is ice cream. How many people are moving one way and then another way? How many people are still not sure? Okay, let's try some more. Here's one that is sometimes really effective. Say your real name. Say, my name is, and feel which way your body goes. And then say, my name is, and make something up. Is that working better? A little bit? We kind of think we might have a yes or a no.
Yeah, it works actually.
Uh-huh, it does. I teach this to kids. You want to help kids learn, should I eat this? Is this good for me? Is this a good choice for me? This comes in handy when they get a little bigger and their friends are trying to talk them into something. And you can say, you gotta trust that. Trust that inner connection. And if it says, no, don't get in that car with so-and-so, you know, it's not gonna always work because, you know, we override a lot. You can use this. You're not sure, should I eat this that's on the menu? Is this the best one for me on the menu? We could go out there right now and we could test every melon and find the ripest one. Because you just say, is this the ripest one? And it will say yes or no, because it's all connected. So I was just going to bring the very heart-specific flower essences tonight, but I thought, well, there's enough people here and we've got enough time. I just brought them all. And I'm not going to tell you what they're for. You're going to find the ones that call to you. And then we're going to, you can look up on here. And we'll write labels down and we'll make you a flower essence to take home. So we can spread them out a little bit further. These are the empty bottles. So what you're going to do, you're kind of going to get in a row and do them a little bit. So you can take these as frequently as you want. Yep, under your tongue. Yep. You don't want to take more of a dose. You want to take them more frequently. That's how it works. Taking more isn't going to be better. Taking it more frequently, if you feel like you have to use it, is the way to go. So, you know, people sometimes take them 3-4 times a day as sort of a pattern. But if you've got something that's helping you with stress or anxiety or a certain situation, you can use your remedy like every half hour if you need to get through those tight spots, because it's vibrational, it's energetic. You just take a drop. Sometimes people will put their 4 drops in their water bottle. Think how much that titrates it down. And then you just sip on it during the day. Yeah. So that's how you work with these. So, yeah.
Awesome. Stacey, can you replenish it then by adding more distilled water as it?
Kind of like you do a homeopathic. I think it's a little different than that, just because it's such a small amount. Yeah. Yeah. So, but again, think about how long that mother tincture is going to last you. You know, don't start making a gallon. So a lot of these came from back in the early days of the Herb Guild in Duluth, which is long been disbanded and elders have passed. We did a flower essence like swap. Everybody came, they all made, you know, the mother tinctures, and then we came with our little bottles and things, and we all made stock tinctures from that, and so we had a good variety. And if you do it right and you keep them stored properly, they will last indefinitely. So.
Wonderful.
So we've been doing some communicating on a different level energetically with the plants. And there's ways that people have been using technology to help show people and learn from different plants and trees and herbs and mushrooms by using frequency and music and biofeedback to let the plants share their songs. So this is actually a plant singing, and it's hooked up to a biofeedback machine at its roots and on its leaves, and then it's run through a receiver, and this is the plant is changing the music up and down with its vibration.
What is the name of the channel?
It's just a YouTube. This is called the Singing Plants at Damna Her. It's a forest reserve, and there's this crowd of people that walk down to see this plant, and it's singing away, and then as the crowd gets close, it stops. And there's a little girl in the crowd, and she's like, well, why did it stop singing? Maybe it's shy. And she says, yeah, it's shy. Why don't you go talk to it? And she goes over and starts talking to it, and then it starts to sing again.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah. Gonna look at it?
What is the ideal way to store this? What is the ideal way to store it?
Not in the heat. Stop. So more cool. The dark bottle, that's already in place, so that's good. So you don't, flower essences are susceptible to heat and light and other strong vibrations. So it's not something you want to keep right by the Wi-Fi or, you know, think of what's in your fridge. Is something in there very strongly vibrating in its own food way, you know? So you just want to kind of keep it, you know, kind of keep it with you. Keep it away from strong flavors, smells, anything that's gonna, it might pick up. So.
Interesting. Thank you so much. This was so much fun.
Okay, good.
Could a person just make a flower essence and then drink it?
It would be strong, but yeah.
And what about freezing it with ice cubes?
You know, what do you think that would do to the energy of it?
It does change texture of most things.
Yeah, well, and you know, I've thought about it, and you know, as a way to preserve it without the alcohol, just feels like it would
Take on a different.
stop it somehow, to me. Try it and see.
If you have trees full of flowers, it's probably not good.
Right? You'll know when you start working with it. Ask, you know.
Well, thank you so much.
You are welcome. I hope that this was fun. We'll try and do some more experiential things now as the class moves forward a little bit more. Still try and give you some information every time, but do something fun.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you folks very much.